polls have shown that Democrats are facing an uphill battle ahead of the midterms, but some new numbers are offering maybe something of a different picture. And that is what Harry Enton is back and digging into. Potentially signs of a turnaround, perhaps, Harry. What are you seeing on the generic ballot?
Okay, so, we're talking about warning signs for the Republican Party, and I will just say, uh-oh, for them. That is the phrase of the day, uh-oh. Democrats lead the generic congressional ballot, and you can see their lead is expanding. It's becoming bigger. Look at this in spring. CNBC, it was 2. Now it's 5. How about Ipsos? It was 1 for the Democrats. Now it's 4. How about the Wall Street Journal? It was 1, and now it is 3. So now the average lead here is 4, which is up from just about a point. That's about a 3-point move on average in the Democrats' direction. And of course, Kate Paul, when this is coming amidst the fights over redistricting, I think there are going to be a lot of people wondering, wait a minute, are Republicans wanting to change the lines because they are losing, which they absolutely are on the generic congressional ballot. At this point, Democrats are winning, Republicans are losing, and maybe they're trying to change the lines in order to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room, given what we're seeing, a clear Democratic momentum on the generic congressional ballot.
How does it break down when you look at party ID?
Okay, so this is one metric, right? The generic congressional ballot. How about party identification, right? Because the idea is if you're a Democrat, you're very likely to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you're very likely to vote Republican. Take a look here, the party ID margin, Democrats versus Republicans. Look in Q1 of this year. Quinnipiac, Republicans had a lead of a point. Gallup, it was tight. Look at where we are now in the latest measures. Again, Democratic momentum. This is a 5-point move to the Democrats, according to Quinnipiac. Now they're up by 4 on party ID. How about Gallup? What we see is Democrats ahead by 3 points. So again, what you're seeing is clear movement towards the Democratic Party on a very key metric, because if you're identifying as Democratic, you're far more likely to vote for the Democrat. If you're identifying as Republican, you're far more likely to vote Republican. And I will note, Kate, that this is a change from last year, especially among Gallup, when Republicans held a rare lead going into the 2024 election. And that, of course, foreshadowed Donald Trump winning, foreshadowed Republicans taking the House, taking the Senate. And now, of course, Democrats are ahead here. This is a big uh-oh for Republicans as we are at the midpoint of 2025.
But you see some signs as well, even beyond polling that you've been looking at, you think could indicate.
Yeah, okay, so this is the polling, right? You're looking at party ID, you're looking at the generic congressional ballot. How about the special elections? Look at this. In the median 2025 special election so far, Democrats in these different districts, get this, they're doing about 13 points better, the median Democrat, than Kamala Harris did in those same districts last year. That is a huge movement. And last year what we saw was, in fact, when you compare the 2024 special election results back to the Joe Biden baseline of 2020, Republicans were actually doing better than they did in 2020 in those. So again, this is clear movement towards the Democrats, and we're seeing it on 3 different metrics, 2 polling and 1 in actual election results.
Very interesting. Good to see you.
Here's the thing about all of this polling. It's just like Chris Matthews said, like he doesn't believe it, because Democrats are in the gutter. In the absolute bottom of the gutter. They're not even in the gutter. They're in below the gutter. No one likes them. No one wants to identify as a Democrat. So to think now, particularly with immigration still at the front burner, I'm supposed to believe this poll. And I'm just telling you, I don't buy it. Because the one thing that the pollsters have yet to figure out is how to actually gauge a Trump supporter. They have yet to figure that out. So that, understand, when they make these polls, they make these calls, people that support Trump never answers. If you approach a Trump supporter on the street, he's probably going to walk away or say not interested. That's how we do it. That's how we've always done it. Nothing has changed. And apparently they have yet to figure that part out. And so in my mind, I'm telling you, I'm not moved even a little bit. I'm not. Because that would have to mean that Jasmine Crockett is now popular. The Democrats are thinking maybe she should run for president. Sorry, I don't buy it.
Thanks for coming back in, Harry.
My pleasure, Kate.
John?
Oh, can you put up, Harry, the first slide you had there again, the generic ballot test here?
Here we are.
Thank you so much, Vanna.
You're welcome.
Okay. With us now, former Republican strategist Lee Carter and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona. Those numbers, which I hope we can still see here, Brad, show those again, and Vanna White there. Maria, how much of a coincidence is it, you think, that we're seeing that trend in the congressional ballot test there? How much of a coincidence is it we're seeing that and these Republican efforts at redistricting at the same time?
No coincidence at all, John. What the Republicans are doing in terms of the naked, corrupt power grab of trying to redistrict Texas and then going into other states to try to do the same to steal Democratic seats is because they're seeing this polling, is because they're seeing the town halls where voters are pissed off about what Trump and Republicans have been doing, which is
the whole thing, because you're going to keep on hearing that. They're going to continue to say that they're trying to steal seats. Well, the fact remains, in Texas, they can do this. They can do it whenever they want. That's how they do it in Texas. They're not breaking any laws. They're not breaking anything. They're not stealing anything. And by the way, I have hard numbers for you. I have hard numbers for you. Texas is, I got to tell you, Republicans are one of the things that bugs me about being a Republican is that we always fight with one hand tied behind our back. It's constant. And I don't know if it's like a personality trait, because we don't go out there and picket. We don't do that kind of crap. Most of us have jobs. We don't have time for that. We got kids. We don't have time for that. We got grandkids. We don't have time for that kind of crap. But Democrats are really good at organizing and yelling and screaming, and we don't do that. So Democrats have been gerrymandering up the yin yang now for decades. Wait until I show you. Wait until you see the gerrymandering that's happening in Chicago or in Illinois. It's unbelievable. There's a reason they went to Illinois. There's a reason for it. Because they are chief of gerrymandering. I mean, they've done it up the wazoo. So this whole thought about, no, they're stealing. No, we're not stealing anything. It's just that elections have consequences. And since we won, and when you look at the electoral map, Texas got a bunch of brand new Republicans, and we want to give them a voice. And that ends up drowning out Jasmine Crockett, which I'm telling you, I don't want her to lose her seat. She needs to be given a megaphone. I want her to be talking. I hope she runs for president. I'm dead serious. She is a net plus for our party. A net plus. So this whole notion that they're stealing a seat, no, we're not.
Going back on their word, betraying the American people, taking away health care from millions of Americans, taking away food from the mouths of hungry children, focused on helping billionaires instead of working class and middle class voters. And the numbers are showing it. And so instead of trying to defend their big, horrendous bill that they just passed, instead of trying to compete with Democrats on the battlefield of ideas and policies that actually do help working class and middle class voters, which is what Democrats are talking about, they have to resort to lying, cheating, and stealing. And frankly, John, I kind of predict that could actually backfire, because voters are going to see that and they're going to say, so now you're going to try to take away my vote and my voice? I don't think so.
Lee, you've got numbers in your blood. Why do you think that the trend line has moved the way it has on that ballot test, on the congressional ballot test, from where Republicans had a very unusual edge before, and now the Democrats picking up some steam?
I mean, we're still not talking about a massive lead. So I'm not looking at this and saying this is a runaway a lead for the Democrats. I also look at the same poll, that one of the polls that just came out on CNBC, and Democrats have a all-time low net favorability. They're minus 32. That's a record low number. What I'm seeing right now is that both sides are wildly unpopular. Donald Trump's approval rating not high, Democrats' approval rating very, very low. And what most Americans are saying is that the political elite are fighting against each other and not fighting for me. The issues I care about the most are cost of living, not gerrymandering maps. And we don't want to see politicians fighting against each other over map lines and have Democrats flee the state looking like they're abandoning the people, not fighting for the people. I think this looks bad for everybody. When people are saying I'm concerned about my cost of living, fight for that. Don't fight over maps. I think this is a big mistake for both sides. And when I look at this and I look at the poll numbers, I'm actually not encouraged for either side. 78% of Americans say that elites and the political elites are playing by a different set of rules than the rest of us, and they feel like no one's fighting for them, and that's a real big problem for both parties.
Let me tell you something. Most people, the vast majority, have no idea what gerrymandering is. The vast majority. I'd be shocked if you can walk up to an average American and just say, hey, what do you think about gerrymandering? And what are the pros and cons? Now, maybe in Illinois, where they have perfected it, maybe they would know. The rest of the country, sorry, it doesn't compute. It's not on the Richter scale. And you know what? It could be just rose-colored glasses, which, okay. I don't think the average American gives a crap about gerrymandering or redistricting in Texas. Sorry. This is political theater for politicos. It's political theater for guys like me who pay attention to all of the little nuances. That's what it's for. That's who it entertains. The average American. You gotta understand something. Texas is a great big state, and everyone knows that. It's not New York. It's not Los Angeles. Sure, you got Houston and Dallas, but look, the bottom line is most people care about what's happening in their state. And by the way, it's going to be an uphill battle for New York, for California, and for Illinois. It's going to be an uphill battle. They think that we'll just start redistricting. We're going to do it if they do it. It's like, okay. I want to see you do that. Now, I'll be honest with you. We got, as the kids say, keep it 100. Democrats don't care about rules or laws or ordinances. Boop. They don't. They break their own rules all the time. Where do you think superdelegates came from? That was their attempt at breaking their own rules. That's so they can keep people like Bernie Sanders off the ticket. They break their rules. It's like part of their DNA. Okay. Elections have consequences. Okay. In Texas, there's an overwhelming group that is not being represented. I've told you guys, in California, it's egregious. Yeah, 43. Imagine you are now going to try to gerrymander California and New York. New York's got, like, I think it's 19 to 7. And in California, it's 43-9. So what are they going to do? Try to get more seats? Further gerrymandering? I mean, go ahead. And you can call it a power grab. You can call it whatever you want. I don't care. I don't think this pushes the needle.
Maria, where do you think it ends? Because the news overnight, Florida perhaps getting in the game. Republican leaders there making a move to redistrict absolutely could pick up Republican seats there. J.D. Vance went to Indiana to try to pick up seats there. What are your concerns that even if states like California try to respond here, the Democrats end up losing in the seat battle in the mid-decade redistricting surge?
Well, certainly this is not something that Democrats wanted. Historically, Democrats have been involved in gerrymandering as well, right? We got to be clear about that. But historically, it has also been Democrats, the ones that have pushed for these independent commissions like the one that is in California, because they're the ones who have wanted the redistricting and the reapportionment to actually be fair and be much more democratic. But
No, they no, they don't. Imagine, like, say that out loud. Democrats want fair. Say that out loud. Okay, Democrats really, they just want something to be fair. They don't want anything to be fair. They don't want anything to be fair. They don't want voting to be fair. In fact, on X, because there's now real parity, where you have like 46% are Republicans and 47% are Democrats, they call that unfair. It's unfair. Why? Because they're used to 70-30. They don't want anything fair. It's not in their blood.
what has happened now is that Republicans, with this naked, putrid, corrupt attempted power grab, Democrats are not going to fight with both hands tied behind their backs. So they are going to attempt to also redistrict where they have the power to increase seats for the Democrats. But at the end of the day, John, it all goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. Republicans are concerned about the shellacking that is coming for them in the midterm elections because, and I'll go back to something that Lee just said, she's right. It's all about what Donald Trump promised and Republicans promised in the 24 election, that they would focus on bringing down the costs of groceries, gas, and rent, bringing down inflation, and they have betrayed the American people.
On the issue of jobs, Lee, sometimes...
Hang on a second. Okay. When they start getting into these job market numbers, Donald Trump, he fired that guy because he came back with bad... That guy's been coming back with bad numbers for a while now. Remember with Biden? He overshot the job market by 800,000 jobs. 800,000. I'm sorry, I made this mistake. That's called election interference. And Donald Trump is very frustrated, and I'm glad he got rid of him. One of the greatest things that Donald Trump is doing right now, he's just pulling the trigger. He didn't give a crap. And I love it. That's what this is exactly what I voted for. Minus the Epstein files, but that being said, this is exactly what I wanted. I want illegals gone, period. That makes no sense. And then, of course, what do they want to do with the illegal? You know why they're fighting tooth and nail to keep illegals here? To bolster their numbers. But Donald Trump has already said there will be no counting illegals in the census. Sorry. By the way, that's not constitute. People keep saying, they cite the 14th Amendment saying, no. You have to count every single person, even, illegals, because you have to count the people that are there. Imagine that. Don't buy it.
I think you can tell what President Trump is most concerned about by what he does and how he reacts to things. So it's been 1 week since those jobs numbers came back revised with really, really gloomy figures for May and June. Revisions down into the low double digits of job gains there. He fired the head of the BLS. And then yesterday in the Oval Office, there was this strange performance where he brought in Stephen Moore with charts and graphs to actually compare his first administration, really, with that of Joe Biden. What does all this concern from President Trump on these numbers, Lee, betray to you?
It portrays to me that he's very frustrated that his story isn't being told and the way that he sees the way things are happening. And he gets fixated on these things. He gets fixated on jobs. He gets fixated on the markets. He gets fixated on a number of things. And he wants to make sure that his story is getting out there. I think there's no one better at trying to control the narrative than Donald Trump. And I think he gets really frustrated when he can't. And that's what we're seeing right now, a huge sense of frustration. I will say, when we look at some of the recent polling, I think it's interesting. We're starting to see a small shift now in how people are viewing the economy. In fact, we're seeing that the most positive numbers and most recent poll by CNBC towards the economy since 2021. And that's a pretty big deal. And I think that's the story that Donald Trump is trying to get out there. Whether or not everybody's going to be buying it, I don't know. I think a lot of people are looking at what happened with the jobs numbers and why is he so frustrated? And I think a lot of people are trying to read into this. But I think we're seeing somebody who's really trying to get a story told.
So right now, why do you think Donald Trump is not getting the story out? What do you think is happening? Because they won't report on it. Most Americans are not looking at CNBC. They're not looking at the actual job market. They're not looking at inflation. They're not looking at home buyers. They're not looking at that kind of stuff. But they are concerned with, the price of eggs, which, by the way, have gone down. Gas has gone down. We're still just getting started. This is still our first year. We're just getting started. And by the way, the tariffs were supposed to be this catastrophic thing that was going to kill everything. It didn't. It hasn't. I'm not saying that, you can put all your eggs in that basket, but that hasn't happened. It didn't destroy America like Elizabeth Warren said it would. It didn't. So the whole thing about this, the midterms are coming in and Democrats are gonna sweep. No, they're not. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, they are still extremely unpopular. Now, the one caveat I will put on this is that Republicans typically don't go out for midterms. And I believe what needs to happen, Mr. Trump, if you were listening, you need to let the people know if Democrats were to ever gain control of the House and or the Senate, your daughter is going to be playing sports with boys again. If they were to ever get any more power, all the things that you were frustrated with, they're gonna do their damnedest to bring it all back. So, and of course, the border, by the way, is the number one issue with most Americans. That's the number one issue. And Trump is getting them out. So I, for one, don't buy it. We'll see. I don't buy it. I think that Democrats are in the gutter.
Right. The real underlying issue with this whole battle over gerrymandering is that Democrats have perfected the art of gerrymandering, and they've pretty much squeezed all of the juice out of the fruit that they can get from it. Anytime they control a state, they just get all of the congressional districts that they can. Whereas Republicans have been very late to play this game. They've done it in a few states, but they're now finally playing with the game. But there's more that can be done here. I mean, this abandoning the state because you don't like how democracy is going to turn out is a very serious problem. And I'm thinking back to when in the LA riots that they started to fight enforcement of the border, the feds started looking into who was funding those riots, and all of a sudden they kind of petered out. Similarly, who is funding this escape from Texas, this abandoning of Texas? It takes money to live in a different state, to go to the other state. Who did that? Maybe there should be some investigation into who is actually funding this ability of Democrats to abandon the legislature and harm the governing of Texas.
That was Molly Hemingway, And she is absolutely right. We've been late to the game with gerrymandering. Late to the game. Donald Trump is like, he's fighting fire with fire. He's saying, hey, Texas, guess what? Let's do some redistricting right now. Now, Al Green, not the real Al Green, and Jasmine Crockett are in fear of losing their seats. I've already told you what I think about Jasmine, but I'm telling you that we're late to this game. It's about time. And the only reason we're fighting back is because Donald Trump is in the White House. Trust me. If he weren't, if we just had one of these, neocons in the White House, we wouldn't be fighting back at all. We would just let Democrats do whatever they want. I hope they stop. Hey, don't they know that that's unfair? Now let's take a look at this.
We know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island. Do we know that? We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. This is just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
Do you think the president would care about this if he wasn't looking at trying to gain 5 seats in Texas and a seat here or
I think the president's
Indiana?
focused on the census not counting illegal people. He was focused on that in the prior census as well. But reapportionment for 2030 is going to change the map. After the 2030 census, there will be a lot more seats moving to red states, a lot of states moving away from blue states. That's going to impact the Electoral College. It's going to make it much tougher for Democrats to win the White House in 2032. We know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always.
What you need to know is that the census was demonstratively unfair one way. Okay? I come bearing receipts. The United States Census Bureau. All right? This is where we get these numbers. And this is what you need to know. When you look at this, according to the PES, for those of you who don't know, PES is Post-Enumeration Survey. Okay, now I kind of blew this up so you can see. Post-Enumeration Survey. Take a look at this. Arkansas, Florida. According to the PES, which states had undercounts? Look at that. Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas. The only one that they did was Illinois. And then go down, look at the overcounts. This is what he was talking about. I got this right off the United States Census Bureau. Look at those numbers. Delaware, +5. Hawaii, +6. Massachusetts, +2. Minnesota, +3. New York, +3. Rhode Island, +5. Those are these were the mistakes we made, and we didn't know how we made them. And then, of course, when you say, hey, we need to redo those numbers then. They go, no, we can't do that. We just have to hope we get it better the next time. Look at those numbers. If you think that was a mistake, that was a legitimate error, look at the numbers. Why is it that all of the mistakes favor the Democrats? What is that about? Well, why don't the mistakes ever favor the Republicans? The mistakes always favor the Democrats. That's your census. And right now, Donald Trump ain't seeing it. He is not hearing this crap. Now, take a look at this. That's Pritzker. Actually, it may be, he went on Stephen Colbert. That is Illinois' gerrymandering. Look at 13. That's right there, like almost in the center of your screen. District 13. Look at how it snakes around, snakes around, snakes around. And then look at 17. Look at how it snakes around and snakes around. They have been doing this for Illinois Chicago, Illinois, they are as corrupt as. That's gerrymandering. That's the reason they all ran to Illinois. So that we can really get to the bottom of how you do this the right way. Unfortunately for Democrats, you're not in power in Texas. And right now, it's my understanding that the FBI has been ordered to bring them in. What I don't want is, because trust me, okay, what Democrats want are to be pictured in handcuffs being brought back to Texas Capitol. That's what they want. Why? Because they can fundraise. By the way, all of this, them running away, shirking their duty, losing their, all of this is about fundraising. Because nobody's giving Democrats money. They're in a hole. Their war chest is dismal. All of this is about getting money. And they're going to be fundraising on this. Look at that map on your screen. Look at that. That is gerrymandering. I mean, it's unbelievable. Look at 13. Look at 17. That's how they do it. And why do they do it? To deny Republicans. Okay, in fact, Illinois, 14-3. 14 representatives to 3. It ain't a coincidence. It's due to gerrymandering. California is even worse with like 43-9. New York is even worse, like 19-7. They're already gerrymandered up the yin yang. So I don't know what they're supposed to be doing now. Here, take a look at this. Illegal aliens rigged the census for blue states, and Trump is right to correct it. This is the Federalist. He's right to do it. And this I'm just going to quote directly from him. Quote, I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024. People who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. Thank you for this attention to this matter. I don't know why he puts that in there, but I think it's funny. It's like, look, why are we counting illegals? This is one of the dumbest things ever. Why are we doing this? Trump previously signed a memo in 2020 that barred illegal aliens from being counted in the census. The memo was challenged and made its way to the Supreme Court, which ultimately did not rule on the merits as to whether all residents, regardless of their legal status, must be counted, and if the president has the authority to exclude non-residents. Okay. The United States Supreme Court was like, whenever there's a state issue, they don't want to get involved. Right, either rightly or wrongly, they don't like getting involved in state issues. Now get this. The High Court, however, did rule in a 1976 decision Matthew versus Diaz, a case regarding the Social Security Act, that while illegal immigrants are entitled to due process protections under the 15th and 14th Amendments, they are not entitled to the benefits of citizenship. Justice John Paul Stevens wrote in a unanimous court, get this, neither the overnight visitor, or unfriendly agent of a hostile foreign power, the resident diplomat, nor the illegal entrant, can advance even a colorable constitutional claim to a share of the bounty that the conscientious sovereign makes available to its own citizens and same of its guests. Like, there's no way that somehow the Constitution claims can be afforded to non-citizens. Sorry. It is insane to think that a non-citizen can vote. That's why they kept that border open. And Donald Trump is rightfully doing that, saying no, you will not be voted in this. Now, I don't know how he's going to enforce this. I don't know how he's going to enforce it, but he has to. He has to.
All right, Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has more on all of this for us. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Sandra. Yeah, there's already stepped up enforcement on the streets of Washington, D.C. U.S. Park Police says overnight its officers and federal partners collaborated to enforce President Trump's executive order making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful. Officers say they made arrests for possession of stolen firearms and illegal drugs, removing these dangerous items from the community. The U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. says she understands her role.
Violence against anyone in this district will not be tolerated. All I want to do is clean up D.C. That's why the president put me here. And youth crime is on the rise.
Outraging Janine Pirro is 19-year-old Javari Peaks, who pleaded guilty to shooting a man in the chest on a crowded metro bus. A D.C. Superior Court judge suspended a 4-year prison sentence in favor of probation under the Youth Rehabilitation Act. Now, early Sunday, a 19-year-old former DOJ staffer was beaten by a violent mob of teenagers in a popular part of the nation's capital. 2 15-year-olds were arrested. President Trump was outraged by the attack and says crime in D.C. must be reduced.
Yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing D.C. to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like. We want to have a great, safe capital, and we're going to have it. And that includes cleanliness and it includes other things. We have a capital that's very unsafe.
With more than 27 million tourists visiting Washington, D.C. each year, this is not just a local issue. Sandra?
All right, Mike Emanuel live on that out of Washington for us. Mike, thank you very much. All right, Chief Washington.
Right now, Donald Trump is cracking down. Like I said, he's pulling the trigger. He is pulling the trigger. He is not messing around. And the crime in Washington, D.C., and I've already gone over this with you guys, largely young black males. And they're going to start, right? They're going to have to start putting them behind bars. And this is how I see it. My guess is most Americans see it this way. You do the adult crime, you do adult time. Period. You're 14, 15 years old jacking someone for their car where you don't even have a legitimate license to drive. How are you supposed to be driving and you're 15 years old? 14 years old. An adult crime, you get adult time, as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, if you want it to stop, you got to give them significant time. You got to make it sting. Now, I'm going to show you something. Hang on a second, because this is a bit jarring, but you have to see it. Because you want to know where all this crime is coming from? Once again, this is a bit jarring, but this is what's actually happening.
So these 3 little boys went into Walgreens and stole a bunch of snacks and toys. When they tried to leave the store with those items, the clerk locked the door.
You got like 10 seconds to open up this door. I swear to God, I'm gonna break this door. I'm cold. 10. Open this fucking door. Oh, come on, mama. Come on, mama. Bitch, I been knew how to count, ho. Show 4 out of that. Dad do that. You can open the door. Bitch, mama, take it. I'm gonna open up this door because I'm not playing. All my fucking knows, y'all better open it. I'm not playing. You know how to count. You have hands. Open the door. Open up this door before we break this bitch. Break it. Go ahead. I'm finna break some up in this bitch. I'm God. I'm finna. You guys must be dumb. I would like that for you with y'all. Do not play with it. You do not like that, but you can't open the door. Do not play with it. Open the door, my trash it. You can open it. I will trash this out. I'm closed. All right,
So these 3 little.
They were in their pajamas. Apparently, their sister came, outraged that they locked them in. She wasn't outraged that they're stealing. By the way, you want to know what they're stealing? They must have been stealing bread and milk. No. Snacks and toys. They were stealing snacks and toys. You want to know where the criminality comes from?
Boys went into Walgreens and stole a bunch of snacks and toys.
It's crazy.
When they tried to leave the store with those items, the clerk locked the door.
You got like 10 seconds to open up this door. I swear to God, I'm gonna break this door. I'm cold. 10. Open this fucking door. Oh, come on.
Look at them. You want to know what's happening in Washington, D.C.? You got little hoodlums just like this. And they do it. Why do you think they thought they could do this? Why do you think they thought there's nothing wrong with this? Who told them that? I'll tell you right now. Had I came home with toys and snacks, and my mom knows I don't have a dime, and I got a bag full of goodies, unless it's Halloween, I would have to bring it right back. I would have to apologize to the store owner, and I wouldn't put it past my grandmother to call the cops on me. I'm not kidding. You think I'm playing? I am not. Not for these kids. Where's the mom? Where's the dad? Nowhere to be found. That's what's happening. That's what Shapiro is fighting. That there on your screen. And so how are you going to deal with this? And they're going to be violent. You hear them. We'll tear this place up. You better open this door. We're going to trash this place. Okay. And this is typical from black people. So you're going to trash the store, The store closes down because they can't continue the risk, because they every store always has, in its, business model, they know that people are going to steal things and they make room for that. This ain't that. This is not a loss that the store figured it out. Okay, this is why stores close. So what ends up happening? This is how you make a ghetto. Right there on your screen. This is how you make a ghetto. You raise little boys and girls, because her sister comes and is appalled that they're not allowed to steal. I'm not kidding. She's not mad at the boys for stealing. She's mad at the store owner for closing the door. So what ends up happening? Let's say that this is, in the middle, because you got to know that this is not like a surprise. What's going to happen? How do you deal with this? You take them out of school? If you put them in juvenile hall, I don't know how the juvenile hall, I don't know how that works, that they still go to school or whatever. But what happens? They are etching out their future. That's what you see right there on your screen. Those three little hoodlums. And they're shocked. What do you do with that? You call the cops. The cops put them in handcuffs, in the scar, and because here's the thing, okay? If the parent won't discipline the children, the police will. If the parents will not discipline the children, the police have to. That's where we are right now. And I don't know what you do with these boys. I tell you what they do, what you don't do. You don't let them go back home. Now, I don't know what happened after this. I don't know that they call the cops, but somebody, my guess is the store owner probably called the cops. Let them deal with it. But then, of course, you got morons like Mamdani wants to get rid of the cops, so that the little hoodlums can go to your store and steal snacks and toys, where it's Christmas every day in the hood. I'm sorry, I'm not making light of this. Man, if I had done that, they are actually surprised. That's what Judge Shapiro, this is what she's going to be dealing with in New York. I don't think that this is in New York, but this is what they're going to be dealing with. Oh no, I take this back. This is New York. So it's not Washington, D.C. But the kid that got beaten up, I guess he was working with Doge. They beat him to a pulp. 15-year-old, 14-year-olds. But do you know what happened? He actually was, because there was a young gal, she was getting carjacked by these 15, 14-year-old kids. He comes, rescues her, pushes her in the car. She drives off, and they beat him to a pulp. Now, I'll be honest. If I'm that kid's dad, I guess I'm proud. But what if they had guns? Which is highly likely. What would you do? It's your kid. You're raising a responsible young adult. He goes in there to rescue this gal. He is not willing to just, get his phone and record it. He's proactive. She gets away. I really hope that she was a liberal. And in Washington, D.C., it's highly likely that she was a liberal. And a man came and saved you. I tell you, man, Shapiro's got her work cut out for her.
Listen, I think that the struggle is good because it means that you still have a moral compass. Unfortunately, in the government that we are enduring at this moment, there is no morality. There is nothing but lawlessness, and there is nothing but power grabs at the expense of so many innocent people. And if we are going to preserve our democracy in this moment, this is the way that we have to engage in this fight. Now, once we get control back, listen, Democrats, I need y'all to listen to me clearly when I say that once we get control back, we have to be just as aggressive, if not more aggressive than the Republicans, to do right by the people. It is time for us to rebuild the trust with the American people. Unfortunately, they did not trust us, and that's exactly why we got here. It's not because Donald Trump is so great. It's not because he put up such great numbers. Unfortunately, so many Democrats stayed at home because they just did not believe that we would fight for them. But this is why I'm so proud of my former colleagues from the State House, because Texas Democrats, well, we do everything bigger in Texas, including fight as Democrats. Listen,
you know what? When they left, they were actually supposed to be voting on, I believe, appropriations for what's it called? Camp Mystic in Texas. That's what they were voting on, getting, an alarm system for just in case there's another flood or whatever. They left anyway. These are Democrats. And they're not going to tell you, they're not going to talk about gerrymandering. They're not going to talk about Illinois. They're not going to talk about California. They're not going to talk about New York. They're just going to paint the picture that somehow we're in the wrong. By the way, what Greg Abbott is doing, the governor of Texas, what he is doing right now doesn't break any laws of Texas. Not any. It is well within his rights to do it as governor. And then when you look at all the red across New York, Texas, that's the reason. And by the way, remember I showed you, hang on a second. Remember this chart I showed you? So the census made a mistake with Texas, where they're supposed to get another seat, or maybe 2 or 3. The census won't go back and correct the error. So Donald Trump says, okay, well, we'll just, we're looking at your bylaws, and this is what your constitutional allows, and this is what we're going to do. This is real. And you're supposed to believe that these mistakes were accidents. No accident. None. So I, for one, I'm here for it. I am here for it. Let's see here. Where do I, okay. So hang on a second, because I don't know if you guys heard about this, Trump directs military to target foreign drug cartels. Get this. President Trump has secretly signed a directive to the Pentagon to begin using military force against certain Latin American drug cartels that his administration has deemed terrorist organizations, according to people familiar with the matter. The decision to bring the American military into the fight is the most aggressive step so far in the administration's escalating campaign against the cartels. It signals Mr. Trump's continued willingness to use military forces to carry out what has primarily been considered a law enforcement responsibility to curb the flow of fentanyl and other illegal drugs. Well, how's that working out for us? Using local law enforcement, how has that been working out for us? Not so much. It hasn't been working out for us at all. So Donald Trump has had it. Deeming them terrorists, which they are, we'll go after them militarily. I, for one, I'm here for it. The order provides an official basis for the possibility of direct military operations at sea and on foreign soil against cartels. U.S. military officials have started drawing up options for how the military could go after the groups. The people familiar with the conversation said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive internal deliberations. Mr. President, your Pentagon has a leak. There's a reason that they leaked this to the New York Times, because you have a leak. And you need to nip this in the bud, Mr. President. They're going to continue to do this. They're going to continue to work against you. By the way, I don't care. They're deemed a terrorist, which they are. All right, we're going to fight fire with fire. This is when I said that he's just pulling the trigger. The president, he's just pulling the trigger, not playing anymore. Because now he understands Democrats don't play fair. They play to win. They play the long game. They don't care about laws. They don't care about ordinances. The very fact that they abandoned their post, ran to Illinois, tells you everything you need to know. They don't care about the law, and they hate democracy. See, in a functioning democracy, they understood, well, we lost. And Donald Trump should have picked up more seats. And he would have, had the lines been drawn properly, but they weren't. So we're going to go in and we're going to start redistricting Texas. And if California, and I don't know how they're going to gerrymander any further. I don't know, man. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm perfectly fine with it. All right, guys, if you'd like to know what cigar I'm smoking, this is the Romeo and Juliet from AJ Fernandez, and it's from and I've had several of these, and these come in these cedar wraps. For those of you who don't know, that's like the cedar wrap, and these are fantastic. AJ Fernandez does an amazing job. I can only imagine, I guess they go to, the Romeo and Juliet and they say, hey, I'm going to make one for you. And I guess they have to, sign off on it. But I got to tell you, man, this is a great cigar. You would love this. If you're a cigar smoker, man, you would love this. If you're an actual cigar smoker, you know about AJ Fernandez, right? I'm sure you already know. This is a great one. All right, guys. if you like this video, smash the like button and subscribe. And if you're following me on Rumble, please press that follow button. And until the next time. Oh, I'm sorry. One more quick
Listen,
thing.
I think that this.
You see there, streaming on YouTube Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. I will begin streaming on YouTube 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. I will begin doing this Monday. Okay? So just to let you guys know, you can join me and then we can talk in real time. Yeah, I think it'll be a good time. All right? I think it'll be a good time. All right. That's it. Until the next time, God bless.